My name is Tim Aikens. I'm an independent management consultant. I've been in the consulting industry for over 30 years. I started out with one of the UK's largest consulting organisations, and I've worked with a number of large consulting companies since. And for the last 5.5 years, I have been an independent consultant focusing mostly in the area of business transformation. My area of speciality really is helping organisations and businesses to transform, to change the way that they go about running their business or delivering whatever it is they have to deliver. The biggest issue that I probably help most of my clients with is quite simply the question of how can we do what we do better? How can we be more effective? And of course, for a lot of organizations, that comes down to doing more with less, trying to save money, trying to increase revenue. But at the end of the day, they are trying to do a lot more with less than they've got and to get a much better business outcome for their organization. I've spent a large amount of my career working in the oil industry, and so therefore that is working with large organizations. Having been a consultant now for over 30 years, I've obviously worked with a very wide range of businesses and organizations. So I've done quite a lot of work in the public sector. I've worked for some very, very small clients. I've worked in service industries, I've worked in telecommunications, I've worked in shipbuilding, so it's a very, very broad spectrum of organizations that I work with. I think the main way that I add value to the client is helping the client to actually make something change, to actually get them to be doing something different. A lot of consultants and indeed clients think that the delivery of a report telling them what they need to do next is sufficient, whereas I prefer to work with my clients to actually see the results come through, the actual financial service or other benefits become real for them, to actually show up in their accounts or in their organization structure. Well, an example of one project I did several years ago, looking at the gas business unit of a North Sea oil company. In fact, it's a global oil company. And this organization realized that if they needed to survive, they had to dramatically improve their performance. They'd done some benchmarking and their profile was very poor. So myself and a team of consultants came in, we did a very short 10-week review and then worked with that client for the next 6 months to implement some fairly dramatic change, which included a complete change in the organization structure, some pretty dramatic changes in the way they did things, and quite a large change in the way they thought as a business. And that allowed them to reduce their operating expenditure by nearly 1/3 and to reduce their annual capital expenditure by over 1/4 without actually having any impact on the revenue they were generating. So this was helping them to become a much more effective, efficient and profitable organization. So with a new client, I would probably start out by meeting with the senior management team to understand their perspectives, and I think at this stage to understand very clearly the extent to which they have a vision and a strategy for the future. Quite often you work with clients who have a very clear vision. They know what they want to be, but they don't know how to get there. Sometimes you work with clients who know they need to do something, but they don't really know exactly what it is they want to be. So you have to work with them to create a vision, because that vision, if you like, is the long-term target that you're helping that client move towards. Having done that, there's really 3 stages. First stage of gathering data through a number of interviews, looking at how the organization does things, looking at the organization structure. Second piece, looking at the key processes and how the organization fits those processes, and actually working with the client. So one of the things that I do, and indeed many consultants, but I tend to work with my clients and use their people to help generate the change, to do the creative part of what is it that we're going to do differently. And following that, there is obviously a point at which you have to make some recommendations to the management team. This is what I think is wrong. This is what we think we need to do next. Here's how we can do it. And of course, at this stage, most importantly, to say, this is what's in it for you. Being very clear about what the benefits are, usually in a financial sense, because even if it isn't a profit-making organization, it still needs to understand that there is a business case for working with a consultant to deliver the benefit. And then the final stage will be working with the client for as long as it takes to implement change. My best professional trait when I'm working with clients is probably being to get to the root of the problem very quickly. I was working with a client last autumn and interviewing one of their senior managers, and after about half an hour he said to me, "How do you know how to touch all my hot buttons? Because that's what you're doing." And of course that is what I have to do as a consultant. I have to find out all the hot buttons. So that is probably one of my key traits, which goes along with listening and actually then being able to feed that back to the client. I think my approach is different, largely because I want to work with my clients. So being an independent consultant, I don't work for a large consulting organization. I don't have any interest in bringing lots and lots of young men and women to work on a large project. I would much rather bring in people from the client's own organization, train them and get them to work with me on the consulting project. And that delivers 2 benefits. Firstly, it leaves a legacy of trained and experienced people who've gone through a change process in the client organization. And secondly, it means that I am able to use people who really know the business inside out. And of course, there's the obvious advantage of saving quite a lot of money. Trust, of course, is an absolutely vital element of being a consultant. And I think even after 30 years as a consultant, you still have to win your client's trust on every engagement. Talking about me personally, why trust me? I think 3 things really. First of all, I have both the expertise and the experience. Secondly, because I'm an independent, my reputation as an individual and as a business is completely based on the results I deliver, so I cannot afford to fail. And thirdly, I've done it before, countless times.